During National Holocaust Week, Henry Greenbaum, a Holocaust survivor, shared his story of resilience in the face of Nazi persecution with the men and women of Joint Base Andrews. In September of 1939, Mr. Greenbaum was a young Polish boy living with his mother and siblings when the war erupted. The Germans invaded and quickly started pushing toward the nation's capital of Warsaw. He fled with his family to avoid the initial fallout of the invasion.
My mom took with the 3 girls and myself and the oldest of the brothers, and we all went in a horse and buggy. We went for about 10 miles away.
Shortly after the Germans occupied the city, his Jewish family was rounded up and forced into a ghetto.
All the Jews got in this neighborhood near the synagogue. The only way you could come out of this ghetto area already, after all the Jews were in there, if you had an ID, where the ID came, but we had to work in the factory.
And after years of forced labor and living in horrible conditions, he was separated from his family during an organized camp selection.
They were taken to a place called Treblinka, nothing but a killing center. And they would lie to them. You go and take a shower, you undress naked to go take a shower. And you never come out of the shower room because instead of water, you have cyclone gas. And that's where my mom and my married sisters, 3 nieces and 2 nephews, and all the other people, pregnant women and the handicapped, lost their lives over there.
Mr. Greenbaum was ordered to a prison labor camp where he was injured during a daring escape attempt, but was ultimately transferred yet again with his fellow prisoners.
And what happened to be Auschwitz-Birkenau, with the famous sign, Arbeit macht frei, work makes you free, which is a lie. First thing you had is a tattoo number on your arm. That's the first thing they give you in Auschwitz. You were no longer addressed by your name, only addressed by your number. My number was A18991.
The conditions at Auschwitz were infamously inhumane.
We came into the barrack in Auschwitz. It was just a wooden shelf. There was no straw or mattress. And they put 3 guys to a bunk. 3 guys.
By the end of the war, through starvation, exhaustion, executions, and disease, around 1.3 million people perished at Auschwitz and its subcamps, 1.1 million of which were Jews. And toward the end of the war, prisoners were moved from camp to camp, ahead of Allied and Soviet troops, in an effort to conceal what the Nazis had done and to move prisoners to areas that were harder to reach. And one day, the guards who were marching them away from the battlefront picked up their weapons and vanished.
And out of nowhere, a tank takes off from the main highway with all these equipment going on. It was the Americans. We didn't know that until the tank came close. The hatch opens up, and this little skinny soldier slips out, crew cut, and he put his hands on his face like this. We are Americans, and all of you are free. I still get goosebumps from that day.
After Henry and his fellow prisoners were liberated by the Americans, he, along with millions of others, began the long, hard process of rebuilding their lives. National Holocaust Week gives us an opportunity to consider the cost of genocide and to remember the millions of victims of the Holocaust. Even though the prison camps have emptied over time, and their grounds have only tourists passing through, the memory of that injustice has not faded because brave men and women like Mr. Greenbaum have resolved to pass on their stories of incredible strength in the face of adversity to new generations.
Thank you very much. God bless you. May God bless America. Thank you very much.
Senior Airman Daniel Burkhardt, Joint Base Andrews.